Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not feeling so well, but I don't want to fall behind, so I'm going to have to kind of go through this quickly here. So this is part 2 about insight, discernment, and wisdom, and the divine order, what have you, and how we find these things discussed in Proverbs, how they're the central part of Proverbs, right? Righteousness and wisdom and how they're connected, etc. So Proverbs 8:9, to the discerning all of them are right, they are upright to those who have found knowledge. So the precepts, right, the ideas, the accompanying concepts that come with wisdom are upright to the discerning. To the discerning all of them are right. They are upright to those who have found knowledge, to those who understand the knowledge of God and the knowledge of why we're actually here. Not mere book smarts, but the knowledge of why we're actually here. Choosing my instruction instead of silver, knowledge instead of choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. So another version of that, it uses the idea of good judgment and so on. So the prudence sometimes is switched out with sense, good judgment, and things of that nature. So I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion and sense, what have you. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior and perverse speech. Counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight, I have power. So in Proverbs later on where it says that those who are wise muster their strength, right? They muster their strength, they muster their power. Okay? They muster their wisdom, their sound judgment, and their insight, right? Because counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight, I have power. And his wisdom talking in Proverbs 8. By me kings reign and rulers issue decrees that are just. By me princes govern and nobles all who rule on earth. I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. With me are riches and honor, enduring wealth and prosperity. My fruit is better than fine gold. What I yield surpasses choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice. So wisdom only walks in the way of righteousness along the paths of justice. Not in the ways of being slack in your work. Not in the ways of going along to get along. Not in the ways of turning the other cheek when it's not logical, when it contradicts righteousness and justice. Okay, so keep in mind they're trying to make it so I sound weird because they're jealous. They'll probably edit the video to make it so it sounds weird. Proverbs 9. Wisdom says, in verse 4, let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and you will live. Walk in the way of insight. Walk in the way of insight, right? In the way of righteousness along the paths of justice. Walk in the way of insight. So these are the martial art principles it's going over again and again. The life principles, the monotheistic martial art principles, what have you. So stop being simple in terms of acting like an animal, but move with a certain care, with a certain sense and insight, with a certain wisdom and discretion and discernment. Okay. So Proverbs 10:13, wisdom is found on the lips of the discerning, but a rod is for the back of one who has no sense. So some people might say, well, duh. Well, they're not truly appreciating the words. What does it mean to be discerning? So somebody who's like a Boy Scout who kind of notices something? No. In its most narrow sense found among people, it's a martial artist, right? A discerning martial artist who's monotheistic in the divine order is displaying the wisdom to be in the divine order. Because in order to walk in the way of insight, in the way of righteousness along the path of justice, you have to obey God through me. Because cheating me out of my right to lead is breaking the golden rule and the greatest commandment, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself, the second greatest commandment. So in order to do those things, right, you have to not cheat anyone out of their right to lead. It should be obvious to you why that is. Going to verse 21. The lips of the righteous nourish many, but fools die for lack of sense. So why do fools lose their souls? For lack of sense, for lack of the monotheistic martial art principles. A fool finds pleasure in wicked schemes, but a person of understanding delights in wisdom. So I guess that's verse 23. From the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be silenced. So in verse 31 we see that from the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, right? And the fear of the Lord, remember, is the beginning of knowledge. It's also the beginning of wisdom. So from the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be silenced. So you have to fear the Lord in order to be righteous and wise, to be insightful, to have discernment, to have sense, to have sound discretion. A perverse tongue is silenced when? Okay, when it's in the afterlife, cooking forever, what have you. And the tongue also can refer to the action-based speech and the nature of that speech. Proverbs 11:12. Whoever derides their neighbor, whoever mocks their neighbor, is what it's saying, has no sense. But one who has understanding holds their tongue. Right? So one who has understanding has actions that reflect that they're not mocking their neighbor in a malicious manner. Now keep in mind, in Proverbs 1 it says that wisdom will mock when disaster strikes. So it's, what does it mean exactly by mocking? Are you mocking like a little kid who's in the wrong? Or are you mocking maybe unwittingly by your actions, just by being virtuous? You're mocking the wicked, so on and so forth. So there's different ways to kind of look at that, and it all has to be interpreted within the boundaries of righteousness and justice. Isaiah 28:17 makes that clear. Okay. Going to verse 30, which connects to verse 31 from the last chapter. It says, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives. So let's look how we got to piece this together here. Let's go back to Proverbs 10, verse 31. From the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be silenced. Proverbs 11, verse 30, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives. So, if the fruit of the righteous is wisdom, and the fruit of the righteous is also a tree of life, then wisdom is a tree of life. Now, the one who is wise saves souls, right? Did Christ save John the Baptist? Did he save the Christians who were persecuted in popular culture? No. He saved their souls. He was part of the Spirit of God that saved their souls. So I, Christ, am part of the Spirit of God that saves souls to the point of God's boundaries. The boundaries of righteousness and justice. Universal righteousness and justice. It's also in Proverbs 11. It's verse 22. It says, like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman who shows no discretion. Another version says, one who, a beautiful woman who rejects good sense is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. So what is a beautiful woman supposed to do? She's also supposed to have the martial art principles intact. Now, why does it bother to say beautiful? Well, because beautiful women have a strong effect on things. Look at Greek mythology. All right, the Trojan War. Okay, you have Paris. And you have, Hector and Achilles and so on and so forth. And there's this war over a beautiful woman. I believe it was Helen of Troy, I want to say. There's this war over this attractive female in Greek mythology. And all throughout history, we see all kinds of trouble that has been started over attractive females. So people are living and dying partially for attractive females to some degree. No matter how you slice it. So for her to choose her emotions and choose money or white social norms and all the detestable gaslighting that goes along with it is very stupid. Very stupid. All the hypocrisy is very, very dumb. So she must not reject the martial art principles in their true form, which leads her to following wisdom, which calls out the highest point, as it shows us in the first verses in Proverbs 8. Which is me. I am the highest point. The word point is even in top scrambled. The top martial artist. Martial is marital scrambled. And I, Christ, am the top martial artist. Okay, so she must obey God through me, and she must choose within the boundaries that God and I set. Okay, not in the boundaries of white social norms, especially as they've been trying to tell me what to do. And that is outrageous. That's how immature people who live by white social norms are. Proverbs 12:11. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Now, people in white social norms chasing fantasies, yes. Look at the propaganda in the military, the police, the government, the coronation of King Charles, in the churches, in the synagogues, in the mosques are mostly whitewashed these days to varying degrees, right? The Freemasons and the schools, the boarding schools, the reform schools. Okay, mental health, it's white social norms everywhere you look. And it's destroying the world more than anything else. The global economy is first and foremost affected by white social norms, which is the main antichrist spirit. And I'm referring to their culture, referring to the spirit of the social norms, what have you. Just because you're white doesn't mean you shouldn't obey God through me. You should. And you should run, not walk to do so. Proverbs 13:15, good judgment wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful leads to their destruction. If someone was to say, hey, they're going to follow those social norms instead of obeying God through me, they're not being faithful to God, are they? They're being quote-unquote faithful to the devil, and it leads to their destruction. The broad road to destruction. Bad judgment is the broad road to destruction in that sense. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them, is careful to make sure they're obeying God through me. Proverbs 14:33, wisdom reposes in the heart of the discerning, and even among fools she lets herself be known. So even fools should be able to see the difference between their foolishness and my wisdom. I was arguing with some Gothic people the other day in their comments section. And I said, look, it's very simple. All these scatterbrained rockers and metalheads and punks and freaks and goths, okay, they don't know what they're doing in life. It's even in their names. It's in their songs. It's written all over them. The people in white social norms who live by this kind of, psychology, they're trans like Satan. An entrance, right? Entrance. The E, the effeminate, is sissy. Sissy, emasculate. Okay? What have you? Shady, goofy, silly, sloppy. Sloppy not because of sabotage, but because of giving in to white social norms and things of that nature. And becoming like, Austin Powers or something, or Fat Bastard from Austin Powers. They have failed miserably. And they refuse to accept the obvious fact that even among fools, they know that they're fools unless they're completely retarded.